Hi, I'm Mike Ward. I'm the Professor of Finance at GIBS, and I'm going to say a few words about the Finance for Non-Financial Management course that John Ford and I have been running for many years now. The course is really aimed at people who want to know more about business, the finance of business. That's really the language of business in many senses. And so if you're at that point where you're trying to understand more about how finance works and accounting works, then this is probably the right course for you. We find this course is oversubscribed many times. It's a very popular program, and we have a lot of fun in the program as well. The first 2 days are covered by my colleague John, and I'm going to ask him to say a few words about that.
Thanks, Mike. So the first 2 days we introduce the delegates to the concept of financial statements and what makes them up. So, for example, what is in the income statement, what is in a balance sheet, where do the numbers come from, and to that end we tend to use an example that people are familiar with. So we would use a retail company, Truworths, Woolworths, Edgar's, something like that. And we spend the first day really just understanding the terms, the language as Mike referred to, and getting people familiar. We assume that people have no knowledge whatsoever in regard to things finance. So it's not a threatening course at all. We don't use computers or whatever. It's really quite a relaxed environment, and as Mike says, we have a lot of fun learning about matters finance. On the second day, having now dealt with income statements and balance sheets and some of the ratios, we now look at what causes the expenses. And people go through life thinking that people cause costs. I argue that people don't cause costs. It's what we require people to do that cause costs. So in other words, if we understand what the activities are within our organizations, we'll then have a better idea of what causes the costs, and therefore if we want to change the costs, what we need to do. So again, we spend a whole day looking at costs. It sounds onerous, but it isn't at all, and it's wonderful the way we can really get some better understanding of quite what drives costs in organizations. And my 2 days sets you up as the prospective person going into days 3 and 4 for Mike to continue with his sessions.
The final 2 days I do. And in these 2 days we talk more about finance than accounting, and we will be looking at what creates value in companies, why we aim at shareholders, and how we try to create value for them. So we'll be talking about the income statement and the balance sheet, how you forecast those, some of the ratios that John will have touched on, and we tried to bring that together. We used a couple of case studies in which we show how you can add value for a business. The last day is really focused more on financial markets, because this obviously has an impact on how one has to manage the funding of a business. So we'll talk about the costs of capital. We also do some valuation techniques. We start with present values and NPVs and some of those things which are just really bread and butter stuff for anybody who's involved in finance. So hopefully you will enjoy the program, and we look forward to seeing you there.